Mr. Alan Kasujja, you're most welcome to join us this morning. There we go. Mr. Solomon Serwanjja has joined us, our second panelist. So we have both our panelists here with us. You are welcome. We are delighted to have you here this morning. Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know if the Bakash Media Foundation team has their quick session they want to run us through. I'm going to give you 2 minutes, 3 max, and then I shall get into the introduction so we can get right into it. So over to you, Isaac, or someone from Bakash Media, and then we shall be ready to begin with our introductions and start the session.
All right, Mali, can you hear me well?
Yes, I can.
All right, welcome to this fourth episode of our Career Essential series. We run them weekly here. We are delighted to have you all here. My name is Isaac Bakashaba. I'm the team leader and founder of Bakash Media Foundation. It's an education platform that does career guidance and so yeah, I hope I'm clear now. Mali?
Yeah, it had jumped off for a bit, but now I can hear you.
Yes, I was introducing myself. I'm Isaac Bakashaba. I'm the team leader and the founder of Bakash Media Foundation, where we do career guidance, mentorship, and skilling of youth, majorly in the high institutions of learning, and those are universities. We've been doing this for the last 2 years now. We've been carrying out different sessions to universities. We've been running what we call career breakfasts and other projects that I'm going to be sharing with you in the next 3 minutes so that we kick off, because we are time bad.
You're very late.
Yeah, we're very late. So let me share something with you in the next 2 minutes. I hope someone on the screen is ready to take us through this. Are we ready?
We can't hear you.
Ready? Oh, you can't hear me?
Now I can. I think it's muted.
All right. Yeah, we are solving a problem of unemployment, which is the biggest problem among youth today in the country, as you see the statistics on board, and comparing them with the job opportunities available and the number of youth in the country, it's really, really so alarming. To go ahead, someone on the screen, try to do this first. The primary solution we came up with is career guidance. We do this through soft skilling, training, research, and analysis that we engage with our audience. And we've been doing this for the last 2 years, I've told you. So these are the projects we run under Bakash Media Foundation. In a bit to tackle unemployment, we have career essentials, which we are on now. We've been doing this physically interacting with our audience through universities, but due to the COVID pandemic, of course, we had to go virtual. So we run them here weekly where we engage the audience. Then we also have career breakfasts or dinners, which are scaled to certain sections. Like today, and now we have journalism. The next time we could do from the law, fraternity, then agriculture. So these are scaled. And we've also run one event, and this was in November. Then another one is Career Magazine. This is a documented information that we came up with that carries the statistics of different job opportunities, different articles from resourceful people and change makers in the industries. So we intend to put out this at the end of this month. It's going to be on both digital and in print copy. Then the third one is career clinics. This one is still in development. It's a discussion with also change makers. It's a one-on-one discussion where they have to tell their story and also take us through the dynamics, the approaches of their fields of expertise. That was the fourth, right? I think the last one is career boot camps. We intend to do this. This is also involvement through edutainment, where we not only sit in rooms and meetings and Zoom meetings like this one, but we intend to engage our audience in fun activities to have them, have this fun as long as along having the discussions. So we intend to do this in form of campfire activities, outdoor games, Yes, so these are the programs we have so far that we are running at Bakash Media Foundation. Going ahead, first, someone on the screen should get to this so fast. Let's push this. Yeah, so these are the case studies. We've had 6 events. So this was the 3rd one. It was at MOOC. We had a turn up of over 420 students. It was a physical interaction. It was an amazing one. Going ahead, this was at MOBS. This was our 4th career guidance event where we invited the Minister of Public Service and other change makers. And we had over turn up of 500 students at MOBS. Moving forward, this was the 5th one. It was at Victoria University. As you see on the board, this was virtual. This is after COVID had hit hard. And we had over 3,000 views. It was live on Facebook and YouTube. You see our chief panelist was Professor Maggie Kigozi. Then going on, this was the career breakfast. This one, Alan was supposed to attend and he was ready, but we had just adopted the Zoom, Zoom way of doing things, and we failed to connect with him due to resources we had. But Canary Mugume came through and we had over 30 attendees. Majorly, we were tackling also journalism like we are doing today. So you can see how we are caring so much about this industry. Going ahead, Career Essential Series. This is what we are on now. These are virtual sessions that we engage resourceful personnel to have them discuss different topics, engage our audience on how to elevate their careers. So far we have executed 3 of them. This was the first one. As you can see on the board, the second one, the total turn up of the 248 in our database. Then this one was last week, where we had not happening now. I think there's a mistake there. Nicholas, the last week when we were tackling the legal practice, fraternity, the legal fraternity, we had the Nicholas Opios, the Fiona was from Uganda Law Society. So these are the 3 we have had so far. So this is our 4th career session. And we are talking about journalism and the opportunities. I'm delighted that we are hosting most experienced personnel in this country. Alan, I engaged Alan last year. We've met, I think, 3 times, but he's so much, he gives me always positive feedback whenever I approach him. And I'm so delighted that, however, so much I've bothered you, but you always, guide me, and you've really monitored how our idea has been, growing from step to step. Solomon Serwanjja, we've met on different forums, but we've not engaged, personally, but I reached to him out through a friend, and I've disturbed him a lot because we pushed this event from Thursday, which was supposed to happen yesterday, then to today. But it turned out to be positive and respond accordingly. So thank you so much for today, our panelists and our audience today. I think many people are joining in. So Mali, take it on, and I hope we're going to have this discussion for the next 45 minutes, then we shall leave you. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, Isaac, for that. I think we are ready to get ourselves started and jump into the conversation. Just before we get into that, we have a poll that the Bakash team has put together. We just like to know how best we can serve you. I'd like to ask that they put it up really quickly, and we're going to go through it really quickly. It's just 2 questions. So it should take less than a minute, and then we shall be good to go. We just want to know your current level of education. We want to know the type of people that we're serving. So this will help us to know the type of people that we are dealing with, so that we can sort of be able to align the content better with you. We'd like to know the career field that you're in, so that we can focus more on the areas where we actually have people coming. Did I say 2? There are 4 questions. Have you been to a career event before? Yes, no, not sure. How did you get to know about the session? You can select any of the social media platforms, or it could have been through one of the panelists or the moderator, which is myself. I have submitted my poll, so I believe it should be done. Thank you guys for doing this. All right, so let's get into it. I'm going to give very, very, very brief introductions of our 2 panelists, Mr. Alan Kasujja and Mr. Solomon Serwanjja, and then I will hand over to them and ask them to introduce themselves a bit more so we can get to know them in better detail, in case there's anything that I spoke about that they would like to add, and then we shall be ready to begin. I'd like to ask you to engage with us as much as possible. The chat section is open, so just keep posting your questions in the chat, sharing your comments, your thoughts as we carry out this session. So our panelists for today, the first panelist we have is Mr. Alan Kasujja. He is a Ugandan journalist. He's a journalist and a radio broadcaster, and he's currently working with the British Broadcasting Corporation, more commonly known as BBC. And we have Mr. Solomon Serwanjja, who has been very popularly known for, the work that he's been doing with NBS, although he recently resigned and is now focused solely on being the executive director of the African Institute for Investigative Journalism. That is a mouthful, I almost bit my tongue. African Institute for Investigative Journalism, I got it. All right, so thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence, for the knowledge you're about to share. We are super, super grateful and excited that you could join us today. I would like to ask, maybe we follow the same order. Mr. Alan Kasujja, if you could go first, if there's anything you'd like to add to your introduction, then we can have Solomon Serwanjja taking it on from there. And when you are through,
can I ask that Solomon goes in first? Solomon, why don't you go first, buddy? You're doing a lot of exciting stuff, man.
Oh my God, if your elder tells you to go first, then...
Who are you to refuse?
Right, who am I to refuse? Thank you guys for having me. I am super excited to be part of this conversation, and it's very good to see all of you. It's good to see you, Alan.
Good to see you too, man.
Have my respect, my brother.
Same.
So I'm Solomon Serwanjja, and I'm an investigative journalist, and I have, done 13 years, dedicated 13 years of my life to investigative journalism. Wow. I've worked with both national and international media. I've worked, at NBS, I've worked at NTV, I've worked at UBC, I've worked at KTN in Kenya. I have also been a producer, an intern producer at the BBC, as well as, a news anchor all through. So my life has really been so much of journalism. And on July 31st, I resigned. The curtains came down for my television career to be on TV and to work for NBS, to take on an assignment as the executive director of the African Institute for Investigative Journalism. And what we do here is pretty much what you've asked me to share today. And that's, training and capacity building for journalists, both at university level and also those in the field already. So I'll share a little bit more about that later, about what the Institute does, but we also support investigative journalists with equipment, secret cameras, secret filming equipment, as well as filming equipment, radio recorders, to facilitate them to do their work. We also have some grants that we give out to journalists who are doing investigations. If you have a proposal, you could share it with us.
To say after such an amazing submission by Solomon, such a powerful introduction of a great guy doing a lot of great work. And it's good to see what you're doing, Solomon, and I wish you the very best. So I'm Alan Kasujja. I really hate it when people call me Mr. It's so exhausting. Reminds me of my school teachers who demanded respect. Just call me Alan.
Okay. All right.
And I have been involved in media since I was in secondary school. So I've done the whole 9 years. I remember starting out as a writer and photographer at the New Vision when we still used typewriters. That doesn't make me old. It just means I started out young. And also, after that, I gravitated towards radio, and it's been a very long time. At the moment, I work at the BBC. I am a lead presenter on a program called Newsday, which is the biggest breakfast show in the world. But I am currently presenting a podcast called Africa Daily. And Africa Daily is basically tackling African stories. I just found, my place. I found a home in Africa Daily, just talking and going deep into African stories and unpacking them. And so that's what I've been doing over the last sort of 6 months. We've done exceptionally well. We're currently on a break because my team has been working incredibly hard over this period, and we felt like a 3-week break would do us all some good. Beyond that, besides that, I've done documentaries for the BBC. I've presented from countries from Asia, from the Middle East, from across Africa, from the US, and so I that's what I've done. Radio is my biggest passion. I've had a relationship with radio for a very long time, but I also write. Everything else basically is an affair, but radio is my first love. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I don't like talking too much about myself. It gets really boring at some point. But yeah, I prefer to respond to questions. So if you have any questions, I'm very happy to respond to them.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. We have so much, wisdom on this panel today. I'm excited to dig in. All right, so I think I'd like to let's start from the basics before we get into it a little deeper. I'd like to hear each of your stories. You've touched a little bit on it, Alan, but maybe we could go a little deeper into that in terms of what is your background with journalism? How did you get into journalism? Did you go to school and then study the things and end up a journalist? Did you do something else and then later on realize that, maybe this is the thing of journalism that I want to do? Like we just want to hear a little bit of your background in terms of entering the field. So maybe you could go first, Alan.
Yeah, I like to make the claim that I started. No, if Solomon lets me go first, I don't mind. I like to make this claim that that I started working as a journalist when I was in secondary school, writing in those school magazines and telling those school stories and school gossip and just finessing my ability to write, my ability to communicate. I think that's where I trace my interest. But I also distinctly remember washing my clothes as a student on a Saturday and listening to Alex Dowler and saying to myself, you know what, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do what Alex is doing. So shout out to Alex Dowler for showing us how it was done back then. And then I worked hard. I remember trying to get into Sanyu. It was called Radio Sanyu at the time. And John Cato, great guy who has mentored a lot of people who've done radio from my generation. John, at the time, wasn't so sure, but he let me stick around. And I remember one day a friend of mine called Henry Kalule calling me up, and telling me that, there's been an opening at Radio Sanyu, and you should call Marion Etienne, who was the assistant general manager at the time, and just have a conversation with her. So I picked up the phone, called up Marion, put on my best radio voice. Hi, how are you? And Marion said, you have a good voice, come for a voice test. So when I went in for the voice test, there was no job to give me, but she liked my voice, so I stuck around. For 6 months, I didn't get paid, but I was working at the New Vision as a writer and a photographer. So that funded the start of my career. And that for me is the crux of it all, the fact that you're going to graft and to stick with it, even when you don't get paid. Just graft and learn and just stay with it, stay the course, keep your eye on the prize. And I remember making a mental note and saying that when I leave this place, I will leave on my terms. So that was quite, and I indeed left on my terms. So that's the beginning of it all. Studying as a law student at Makerere, getting confused, trying to dabble into mass communication, realizing that this stuff is so easy, I could do it in my sleep. This is what I'm already doing. And then deciding, you know what, let's go back to law, and then finishing up with my law later on abroad, but still sticking with radio and journalism. I think I've talked too much. Solomon.
Okay. So you studied law while you were practicing journalism?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. All right, Solomon, can we hear your story?
Ah, isn't Alan such a very good storyteller? He just
Mhm.
isn't it? Well, my journalism career, where did it all start? I think I don't differ so much from Alan's story. I should add that I'm a grandmother's son, or I grew up pretty much with my grandparents. And when I was in senior six vacation, there is a lady called Lady Bizo, and she used to be called Becky,
Wow.
and she used to do Kampala FM. She used to be on Kampala FM thing. Right now, she's on Spirit FM. Alan, I don't know if you know about Lady
Yeah.
Bizo.
Yes, yes,
Becky,
yes, yes.
she was absolutely amazing. She always has that wide smile that just ushers you in if you see her in person. She's just such an amazing person. So she used to do a morning show called, I think, Breakfast Show on Kampala FM at that time. And I remember telling my grandmother, I just want to go and meet Becky. I just want to speak to her. I want to see her. You know, she used to have a flow in a way. So my passion was radio, and so I used to imitate her. I remember one of my favorite lines were like, you know, every time she would play a song by CC Winans, she would go like, you know, mother to two and wife to Alvin Love. You're listening to CC Winans, Alabaster Box, you know, taking off her album, this. So, you know, I started just rehearsing. I'm like, my goodness. So I just loved radio so much. So I remember asking my grandmother, I just need you to give me 1,000 shillings for transport to go to Boise, where, you know, Kampala FM was at that time. And so I went at the reception during the vacation and I told her, hey, Becky, I just want to be like you. I want to read, I want to be like you. I want to be on a radio program like you. And so when I reached at the reception, they told me, do you have an appointment with Becky? I said, no. And they're like, just doing a show. I have to wait. And so when she came, she's like, hi, you know, she has that white smile and beautiful face. And she's like, hi, how can I help you? Like, I want to be like you. I want to be like you. And she's like, so tell me about yourself. Like, I'm in vacation and, you know, you inspire me and all that. And she's like, can I come and do the show with you tomorrow? And she's like, let me talk to the producer. And the producer was really, really kind to say yes. And so I went back home and she's like, you know, come in tomorrow morning and just come in and be part of the show tomorrow. I went back home and I gave my grandmother a big hug and I told her, Jaja,
Hey.
I was super excited. And she's like, oh. So in the morning I told her, you know, to just go back. So I went back to the radio station and I remember that show that I was just rehearsing the whole night with my brother. You know, I tell us Soko Tulao, go get it in Burunj. I get my lines right because tomorrow I'm going to be with Becky. And so I went just with Becky and I went to the studio and, you know, she just taught me a few things, the console, the microphone, you get closer to the mic and you just have to do all these things. And then boom, we did the show and it looks like the producer loved it. And she told me, can you come back again and again and again? You know, so I just started like that. And, you know, because, and I think that's where I got my donations right with Becky. You know, Becky's articulate, she gets her donations right. She's a fast speaker. And I think I picked it up for, like, I became a fast speaker because, you know, Becky sort of was a fast speaker. Boom, fast forward, the results came back. I did PCB, I should add. So I did PCB stroke food and nutrition. So my dream at first was to be a doctor. Medicine didn't come through, you know, and, you know, I applied for medicine at private at Mara University. I was offered the vacancy, but at university I was given Bachelor's of Environmental Science on government sponsorship at Makerere. And I was like, I really want to do environment things. I wanted to do medicine, so I applied for private. They gave me Bachelor of Medicine and Surgery in Bara. Then I came back to grandmother and said, Jaja, I'm in medicine. And she's like, you know, I don't have money. So it's either you do what you've been given at university or you sit home, you know. So painfully, I had to divert away from medicine and then went through school, finished it. At the time when I finished school, I then, you know, started, because already I had gained experience in radio, and I started loving it so much. There was an opening at Magic 100 FM, which is at UBC. And so they called me in, and I started doing the show on Sunday called the Sunday Breakfast Show. I wasn't paid at all for quite a while, because passion used to drive me for about a year. And eventually then they put out a call that now they're going to give you money, like apply. When I did the interview, I saw the big names in the industry at that time. Daniel Kanyerezi, Irish, came for the interview. You know, the big names, the Mish came for the interview, like big household names for the interview. I'm like, who am I to compete with these big boys? They're all good with radio, you know, come off with big careers. But I went through that interview, and that was the change of my life from radio to television, because when I reached the boardroom, the director called me and told me, there is a person with a first-class degree in environment doing on radio. I'm like, that's my passion. You know, when he reviewed the papers, it's like, how about if I gave you an opportunity to do TV? Would you do that? I'm like, I came for radio, but okay, let's see how it is. So part of me was telling me they're tricking me to fail the interview. Part of me was telling me maybe they're giving me an opportunity. And then ultimately, then they're like, boom, stand there. Mabida is burning. Start talking. My goodness, I had never done these things. I just started blabbering, like, you know how you've done radio before and you're forging things. Boom, 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 burning, people are coming, trucks are coming and all that. And then and then the guy's like, I like you. So can I give you an offer for TV? I'm like, yes. But I remember walking out of that interview room and went back to my grandmother and told her, Jaja, maybe I failed the interview. And then she's like, don't worry, things are going to be okay. And then I got admission into UBC. Long story short, did UBC. NTV spotted me. They spotted talent. I went to NTV. KTN spotted me. Went to KTN. NBS spotted me. Went to NBS. Before I knew it, the world spotted me. The BBC saw me and did a project with me with the Africa Eye Desk. They're stealing from the Sikh investigation. While I was still waking up from that, I was, the BBC saw that I was worth winning the BBC World News Komla Dumo Award. And the next day I was with Kasujja in the Newsday studio doing an interview with him on the show. Quite a memorable for me. The energy in the room was, I can't forget it. Like, it was like yesterday being in that studio with you. And, look where I am now. Now I'm here trying to grow the next Solomon Serwanjja in the market. Sorry, I talk a lot.
That's what you're paid to do, my friend. That's what you're paid to do. Brilliant story, man. Brilliant story. Brilliant story. Is Marie still with us, or she decided to go somewhere?
She should unmute.
I am here. Sorry, I had muted. Wow.
Right.
Yes, you're an incredible storyteller. You both are. Thank you. That's, like Alan said, what you're paid to do. So no need to apologize. So
Marie, can I just say though that unfortunately I'm pressed for time, and my question is, if there are any specific questions that anybody would like me to address, I'm very keen to jump into them because time, unfortunately, is not on my side.
On your side. All right, thank you for that. If anyone has any specific question for Alan, I'm not supposed to say Mr. You can just throw them in the chat and we will try and address those quickly. All right, let me see how to do this quickly while we still have you here. So for a person who is trying to get into journalism, let's address this quickly because you both spoke about it, how you worked for quite a bit of time without getting payment. How do you draw the line between exploitation and perseverance? Because I think that the idea is that for many people, once you make them stick to something for a long period of time without pay, then it becomes an exploitation, or it comes off as exploitation. So where do you draw the line between I'm persevering and maybe I'm being exploited?
I think if I may take this one, I think first of all, you need to add value to yourself consistently. And I think a lot of these jobs where you're willing to forego payment are an opportunity for you to learn, to pick up skills, to learn from others. But then also, I've always been consistent in telling people that you must train people how to treat you. I think, over time you pick up, you add value to yourself, and over time you realize that these people need you to be there with them, and that's why they hire you. And so you should be. You should. I'm not a preacher or anything like that, but I'd like. What I normally tell people who ask me that question is that you should work towards your goal. You're very clear about what you want to achieve from this. When I started out very young, I wanted to end up at the BBC. That was very clear to me. I know where I wanted to end up. I'd had a conversation with my mother listening to the BBC when I was a kid, and I told her that I'd like to present some of the programs that we were listening to on the BBC. And it was very surreal for me to be sitting next to people eventually when I joined, who I had been listening to as a kid. Some of these guys are institutions, and there they were sitting next to me and according me just as much respect as I was giving them. And I think ultimately it's a case of you not allowing yourself to be exploited, walk away if and ever you feel exploited, but also there's that very delicate line between that and picking up skills which you will need over time. The skills that will sustain your career, the skills that you will depend on to grow. So I think that's how I have always done it. It's always been a case of, if I do this, what is the opportunity cost? If I let this opportunity go, what am I losing from so doing? If I allow these people to pay me that much money and yet everybody else is being paid more, what does it say about what they think of me? It's all these questions that we need to be asking. And I've walked away from situations which I felt did not give me the sort of respect I deserved, even when I was much younger. You want me to MC at your event? You want to pay me how much? 150,000. What do you mean 150? If you don't have 500,000, it's okay. I'll forego that. It's just a question of you knowing your value, adding value to yourself, and making sure that you attach the relevant value to yourself. I hope that's helpful to someone.
Yes, very helpful. Thank you. How much time do you have? You're here till midday? I'd like
No,
Solomon
just keep going, don't worry.
Okay. Solomon, I'd like to hear your take on that as well, if you have anything to share, very briefly.
I think the first thing is if an opportunity comes up and you need to train and it's something you're passionate about, go for it. And you've been given an opportunity to learn, you just go there and just learn and get the skill, get that skill, present yourself as the best. Yes, you may not be paid, but when you present yourself as the best and you've got the skill, then that becomes your tool of trade. And therefore you can be able to get this skill and sell it elsewhere to actually earn from it, right? And so for me, if you ever get an opportunity and you're from university and you're in there, get as much as you can, get that skill set, know how to operate a console, know the basic editing software, learn how to use it, know the whole voice testing and voice coaching, and know how the different software works, for example, and get that skill. When you have a skill, then you can be able to sell it somewhere else and get the money. But also know at what moment do I have to pull out, at what moment do you feel you're being used and not appreciated? The beauty is that if you've got a skill at that moment, then you can pull out and go and present yourself with that skill elsewhere. So for me, I think that would really be my big take. An opportunity comes, go for it. If you're on TV and you've been given an internship or you've been given a placement, use the infrastructure in that place to learn, for example, camera, learn how to do video editing, learn how to do some animations or graphics animations, or learn the skill of presenting, grow that confidence on air. And then once you have got that and you think that you get to the point that Alan was saying that now these people need me, and because you have the skill and you're good at what you do, then it can be an opportunity for you to actually sell it, because it then turns out to be your tool of trade. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Wow, yeah, that's quite useful, I would say. So what I'd like to, well, okay, there are a few questions here. I'll just throw one question to Alan and then ask another one that's general. Someone is asking, well, question's quite general, talk about doing balanced journalism, more especially in politics. Davis, could you be a bit more, yeah, it's not really a question. I don't know if it's clear, Alan, if you're able to respond based on that. I feel like we might need a bit more. What competent quality is really necessary or best? Okay, so someone is asking, Melissa Faith is asking, what quality is very necessary for an individual whose passion is TV or radio to make it through the industry? So what quality should one have to be able to make it in the industry of journalism, specifically TV and radio? So can I take that.
Can I just start by taking the first question about balanced coverage and all that? I think.
Okay, awesome.
I think I understood what the general gist of that question. I think for me, the most important thing is, I personally don't take, if I have political opinions, of course I do, but my political opinions have no place in my public discourse. So my friends might have an idea of what my political leanings are, but because I operate in the public space, and I will not show my political leanings whatsoever. I will never do that. But then also, there is the need for impartiality, because I've found that when you're impartial and people are able to come to you and are confident that you'll give them a fair shake, a fair hearing, regardless of their political inclination, you grow a reputation of being trustworthy. If you show your political hand and also work as a journalist at the same time, it cuts off one whole section of people, because there will always be a contestation as far as politics is concerned. So my approach to political situations is, a lot of people call me a fence sitter. I've seen that somewhere, because I will never ever take sides when it comes to politics. Certainly not publicly, and certainly not, because I need to be impartial all the time, and that requires me to make sure that my opinion is not one. You will never hear me giving a political opinion on anything, because it is it immediately alienates people, and it raises questions about your impartiality. For me, it's important that I'm impartial. I remember when I was doing the presidential debate, I had friends running for the presidency, and I decided from the very beginning that, you know what, if you can answer my questions, or if you can take some heat from me, then you're ready to become president. So I decided that I was going to be impartial regardless of what my personal feelings towards these people are. And so I literally asked the difficult questions, and everybody in the public space, every politician who offers themselves for political work must be open to scrutiny. So your job as a journalist is to scrutinize everybody fairly and impartially. Must be impartial all the time.
Impartiality. All right, thank you. I think, Davis, you've got some sort of answer, and then maybe you can now address the competence qualities.
Solomon, do you want to do that, the one on competence?
I wanted to touch a little bit about what you said, then I can talk about the competence.
Okay, go ahead.
This being unbiased in political reporting, and I think, Alan, I can't agree more with you when you said that you get yourself out of that and provide everyone a fair opportunity to speak. I think that one of the core values of journalism is being objective and being fair and balanced. The reason why we call them core is that they're the bare minimum. They are the foundations of journalism. You've got to be fair. You've got to be try to provide everyone with an opportunity. And the other thing that I have learned from Alan, and I've been with him on so many times, is to listen. right? You find that there are very many journalists or presenters who don't listen when they're interviewing people, right? You've got to listen, give an opportunity for someone to talk back or listen from them, right? So you fairness and balance and being able to listen are very, very core. Even when and I mean, so many people will say, okay, does that therefore mean that you don't have a political inclination? When you put on the jacket of, a suit, or when you get on front of that mic or in front of that camera, you bear a huge responsibility to society. You bear a responsibility of being fair. You bear a responsibility of being balanced and giving everyone an equal platform to talk back. So even when you're hosting political shows, you've got to listen to each other and you have to be open to diversity in opinion, right? I think it's only fair that we talk about that. Marie, you said the other bit was on what?
I think core competence is the skills that you need and for TV and radio. If I might just make one line on that, I think it's all down here. Just add value to yourself. Feed this machine, man. This thing between your ears is what is going to see. It's going to be the difference between how good you are. It's going to distinguish you from the rest of the crowd. You want to be a journalist. People like me read 3 books a week. How many books are you reading? There's always audio playing in my car. When I went to the gym this morning, I was listening. I was rereading something that I'd read. I was listening back to something I read a while back by a guy called Francis Fukuyama on the origins of political order. I was listening to the Cultural Revolution by Mao Zedong in China and drawing interesting parallels with what I'm seeing across Africa. So what are you doing? What are you feeding your mind on? I think it's really important that you are able to, my rule is you should be able to talk about anything and, with less than 1 minute's notice. And so that requires you to consistently feed your mind and to constantly remain curious, because that curiosity is going to drive you to keep delving, to keep digging. And that process of digging is what is going to distinguish you from everybody else, I think. Solomon, and of course, you obviously want to add to that.
Yeah, well, you've just said, research. Of course, you must also have a good voice like that of Alan, right? Sometimes.
So for some, there's no chance.
Sometimes you need to have that voice, but that's a surplus. But going back to what Alan was saying, it is really terrible for you to be speaking medicine to doctors and you're not well informed. Imagine if you're talking about a story around medicine and COVID-19 and infections and everything, and you have not researched. I think it's important for you, to borrow Alan's word, feed your mind, feed your brains, read. The thing is, as journalists, sometimes we forget that whichever topics we tackle, there are experts out there listening to us. You're talking about medicine. There are doctors, professors in medicine that have actually studied these things. And sometimes if you don't read and research, they'll be like, what is this guy saying? You know what I mean? You are talking about legal issues. You are doing, commentary and analysis on the Constitution and, legal frameworks in the country. And you have not done groundwork around that particular issue, around the law. Then you don't have any authority to be on screens. You don't have any authority to be behind that mic because there's nothing you're telling us. To Gamba. And I think that it's very important for you to be able to prepare. When I was at the BBC, they told me 3 things. 1, prepare. 2, prepare. 3, prepare. Like prepare. Like those are the 3 rules there. So it doesn't matter if you're looking so good, if you have a good voice, or you're so beautiful and you're so smart. That doesn't do for the audience. It is important for you to come before an audience when you are well prepared. If it means you're doing dry runs, do them. Go back to the I don't believe in doing miracles, right? That you come on air and get everything right. It comes with experience. I mean, right now, Alan can tell me he can wake up and do the show because he has, over the years, learned that experience, and he's really put in a lot of time and hard work. The brother is telling you he's listening to audio books. What you do when you get into your car is put on, good. Guys, investing in reading 3 books a week. Alan should admit, I think I do 1 book a month, but I'll do better.
Yeah, it's okay.
But
it's okay.
The whole thing is investing in yourself, investing in your brand, investing in your personal branding, both here, but also, for TV, it's visual. You've got to also portray a certain brand. But the most important thing is what Alan said, invest in your brain.
Absolutely. And I don't know how we can overemphasize this. I like to give the story of Andrew Mwenda. This guy wakes up at 4 o'clock every morning to read.
Wow.
4 o'clock every morning. When young people come to me and ask me for mentorship, I tell them, send me a PowerPoint presentation, write a cover letter, and send me an Excel sheet covering your costs per month. And then you very quickly realize that there are so many gaps. And then the way people write, the way you write will tell me a lot about what you're reading or whether or not you're reading. There is really no shortcut on that, Who can you quote when someone decides to talk about classical music and decides to talk about Tchaikovsky? Can you fact check them on Tchaikovsky? Can you fact check them on Andrea Bocelli? Can you go into, for example, COVID-19? There's an abundance of fake news. How well do you know this subject? Can you name check them? Can you fact check them? Because with the prevalence of fake news, there is a need for you to be on top of your story. Solomon will tell you before a guy like me goes on air to do one specific story, my producer has spent hours putting stuff together, putting a brief together. And when that brief comes to me, I read every single thing that they've read so that I am ready in my head to discuss Tigray and the conflict in northern Ethiopia. When I talk about the conflict in northern Ethiopia, I'm talking about TPLF. And who is TPLF? What is the capital of northern Ethiopia? It's Mekele. And if it's Mekele, where are the troops at the moment? Have I pulled up a map to familiarize myself with the geography of the area? And then the next big thing, there's Cabo Delgado. Recently Rwandan troops moved to Cabo Delgado. How significant is Cabo Delgado to the history of Uganda? Montepuez is where Yoweri Museveni trained as a guerrilla, as a university student from Tanzania. So what is going on there? Well, for a long time, there have been all these insurgents. Okay, let's go to Mali, or let's go to Chad. Chad, well, the president, Hissène Habré, was killed on the front line. So this ability to jump from one thing to the other, to go to the latest story coming out of Libya being the...
Oh no, something happened. Wow, right in the middle of his good speech. Okay, let me jump into another question. If he comes back, how do I do this? Okay, there's a question here, Solomon. Someone is asking, how can a journalist address the issue of limited resources when pursuing underreported issues? So for example, the challenges of, let's say, education in Karamoja. So you are trying to report an issue that has been underreported, and then your resources are also limited. How best would you deal with that situation? What would you advise?
So, well, I think things.
Looks like Alan is back.
Okay, great.
Sorry, just hold that thought for a second. Let me see if he has connected. Are you back, Alan? You jumped off.
I am sorry. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
But I think I was at the point where I was saying, if I name a country now, you need to be able to tell me something that's going on there. When I tell you to talk to me about Moldova, look for it in the map. You need to be able to talk about the stories that actually matter. What are you listening to? How across are you to the things that are going on in the world? When I ask you about Vladimir Putin, who was he? When I ask you about Mikhail Gorbachev, who was he? Who was Deng Xiaoping? These are things that only come from you reading, from you feeding your mind, from you acquainting yourself with stories. And you need to understand what the story is, who the key players are, and that is what distinguishes you from the next guy. Immerse yourself in the information, immerse yourself. We are now lucky. I come from a time when we didn't have the internet and we relied on a small machine from Reuters to supply us with international stories. Now it's ubiquitous. What apps do you have on your phone? Do you have alerts from BBC? Do you listen to Africa Daily Podcast? Have you subscribed and given it a 5-star? but the point, but that point is absolutely essential. Absolutely essential that you feed your mind and acquaint yourself with the stories that are around you, because that is what is going to distinguish you from the next person. Now, for example, if you ask me about COVID-19, Walter Mwesige comes across as a journalist in this country. If you ask me about some of the best journalists in this country, there are people like Raymond Mujuni who immediately come to mind. Some of the best newscasters in this country, Isabel comes into mind. Samson comes to mind. Solomon left, but he's obviously one of the best in Africa. So my point is, just feed that mind, keep working at it. Every single day is a day for you to feed your mind.
That mind, that's, I think, my biggest take home from today, because it just keeps coming up. It's following me everywhere. Feed your mind. All right. So while you jumped off, I had addressed a question to Solomon, which Solomon will answer, and then you can also just tackle that quickly. How do journalists address the issue of, if you are trying to pursue a story that is underreported, but you also have limited resources, how can you go about something like that? So Solomon, you can just take it away, and then Alan will finish, and then we'll see how to start to close off.
Well, first of all, I mean, listening to Alan, just got me a little bit stressed. The guy knows names and speaks them well, and he knows everything. Alan,
right?
I want to be like you, man.
No, forget it, Solomon. You're better than me, man. You're better than me, bro. You're better than me. You're doing amazing stuff. I'm really proud of you, bro.
When you were speaking, I was like, Alan is going to ask, what are the top 5 stories from across the continent? So when you're speaking, my head is running through. I'm like, okay, what is the biggest story? You were sending troops to.
Because unfortunately, Solomon, that's how people get tested, right?
Yeah.
You know this for a fact. My producer will find me sitting at my desk, and they'll tell me, you know what, Alan, we've got this new breaking story. I'm like, okay, what's the top line? What's the top line coming out of it? Where is it? Who am I talking to? And then in 45 seconds, I have this guy at the end of the line, and we must have that conversation. It helps a lot. Yeah.
I hear you. I mean, think about, and the thing I keep always telling people is that, imagine, Alan, you are not grounded in those things, and they say, there's breaking news, start talking. You know what I mean? And so I keep telling people that being a news anchor or a show host of a radio station, radio show, or on TV is not about beauty in the voice, or it's not about beauty in you and the clothing you're putting on. Imagine you're in the middle of the program and they tell you President Yoweri Museveni has died. Okay, God forbid.
Hey, Solomon.
And you have to.
Do you want us to get locked up today? Do you have bail money?
Do you want them to block Zoom?
Are you like
my breakup with
Zoom blocks tomorrow? Are you like? I'm sure that Alan can talk for the entire day.
100%. 100%. I will quote Yoweri Museveni addressing the United Nations. I will quote Yoweri Museveni addressing the African Union. I will quote him addressing the inauguration of President Moi in Kenya, speaking after Ali Hassan Mwinyi, where he went up and said, Mheshimiwa Rais, Kiswahili changu sio kisafi kama cha Rais Ali Hassan Mwinyi. See, because again, you acquaint yourself. Sorry, Solomon, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you make that point.
No. I just love hearing you, because you see, Alan will also get sowing the mustard seed. He'll just get a quote because he has read the book like so many times. He's read like the whole where he trained from. He will describe you. President Yoweri Museveni was born on this day to this father, to this mother. He has so many sisters and so many brothers. This is, he was minister in this government, like the whole thing from birth all through his political career as a politician, him ascending to power, some of his close, cronies, how he has fallen out with, some of the international key players, his attack on the West, he's embracing Chinese. So he'll go to international relations, he will go to diplomacy, he will beat it up all together. In just a spot of like, Alan, we have breaking news. I'm sorry on air right now, but you have a talk back and the producer saying, you know what, breaking news from Uganda. This has happened. And it's
and you know what happened, Solomon? I just want to give you an example of that situation. It happened with Daniel Arap Moi, the president of Kenya. I was on air when it happened. I was with my guy, James Copnell. And we were on air, and then James picks it up, and I pick it up, and we start trying to verify that story. So I asked journalists, I asked the guys who broke it because I know them, and in Kenya, that's the other thing. Your networks are really, really important. Know your fellow journalists wherever they are. Make sure you have someone in every country, every region, so that you can verify a lot of there was an attempted coup on August the 1st, 1982. But this is all time he tried, on the roadside, he fired, picked up Uhuru Kenyatta to be his successor, how Raila Odinga joined him and as a leader of LDP, the Liberal Democratic Party. So, and this all comes from just acquainting myself with this information and reading this information. Because whenever you read, whenever you immerse yourself in this stuff, you bank it for a rainy day. So when Moi dies, you're able to just switch it on and unleash your knowledge. And there's some amazing people like Audrey Brown at the BBC, who are encyclopedias, for example, in South African affairs. When Mandela died, these guys just switched it up. They switched it on and they went and they won an award for it. So you won a Sony Award as well, Solomon, did you not? For the work you did, yeah?
Yeah, really.
Yeah,
Really
yeah.
Listen, you know, if a person like Alan right now was just volunteering at the BBC, but because of what he has done and that skill and that memory and that makes him a big resource, that if Alan decided to say, you know what, I'm done, I'm leaving the BBC, you're not paying me, I volunteered for all this while. Because Alan has actually grown himself, he has something to sell, and therefore it's priceless, and no one will say, no, Alan, you're not going anywhere, tomorrow you're signing your contract, because he has a tool of trade, you know what I mean? Right. And Alan, I mean, like, you just made me think of, I just need to go back and study a little bit more. But yeah,
no.
I mean, think about this. Now, this guy has a whole of the world to think about, you know. He's on the world service. It means he has to read all the time, from Russia to Ukraine to Somalia to Johannesburg, South Africa. Imagine, and for you, you're in your small world, and you think, you know, you just want to come on air with a nice voice or with your nice pretty makeup or with your nice dress. That doesn't count, man. You know, you just have to invest in your head. I think for me, the take home from this, invest in your head, read, and be exposed more. But this is let me just talk a little bit about the question that you said, and just, you know, as brief as I can. One, look for alternative funding models. I'll tell you this, the steering from the SICK investigation, I did a proposal. And when I went to NBS at that time, NBS did not have the resources to actually fund the investigation. So what did I do? I reached out to everyone who cared to know. I reached out to the BBC, I reached out to Al Jazeera, I also reached out to Voice of America. I mean, the Americans wanted, at that time, they were doing projects around China, of course, because of the political, you know, connotations or fight. You know, if you're doing any investigation around China, we'll be able to give you some money and do the investigation. So I was like, no, this is not really a Chinese thing. You know, the BBC Al Jazeera was saying the Al Jazeera Africa Investigates project closed. So right now they're focusing, I think, on Middle East. I said, cool. When the BBC say, hey, this is something we can look into and fund, but a huge budget. The investigation actually costed quite a lot of money, I should add, but they actually put that money. So as a journalist,
what sentiment?
I think that was over $40,000. The money they spent on that project.
40,000, yeah.
Including, you know, equipment coming in with crews and filming and, you know, everything undercover, so much training, everything, clothing. It was too much. It was quite a big project. So if you have a big project that you want to chase, then you have to look at alternative means of funding for you to be able to execute those projects. There's so many NGOs that are interested into education, into water, in Karamoja, into that. Just do a good pitch and then sell that pitch as best as you can. So you're able to actually attract someone's attention. Ultimately, then, kind of think about, changing their budget lines to, fund your investigation or to fund your story idea. So I think that people in the newsroom and the young journalists should move away from looking at, the newsroom and as the ultimate source of resources to do investigations, and try to explore other alternative means of funding on funding story ideas. So thanks. I hope that really speaks to that.
Yeah, it does. Thank you so much. So I'd like us to start our wrap up. So I'll ask for maybe a quick parting shot. Also, I'd like us to try something for those that were on the call last week. If you weren't on the call last week, I just want to try something that I saw on another Zoom conference call. So if you are not in a place where you look a bit organized, maybe just organize yourself a little bit, please, and turn on your video towards the end so that we can get a screenshot of everyone just sort of waving and saying bye, so we can see everyone that came and so we can get the feel of being in a real place. So we'll do that as we are closing. So I'd just like to invite each of you to give us your parting shot for someone who is in the industry trying to be relevant and put themselves out there. For someone who is looking to get into the industry, you can just give us, a quick parting shot. What are some of the things someone can do to be relevant, stay relevant in these times of journalism where almost everyone can decide to be a journalist, posting pictures on their phone and sharing things and telling people news and sharing things all over the internet and all of that. What can one do to stay relevant in the current times? Alan, I think you can take it first.
I think very, very briefly, if I can, because I really have to jump off, and I do apologize. Number one, I think the most important thing is to just feed your brain, keep working at it. The brain, we don't use it as much as we should. Really keep working on that. Read as widely as you can. Don't limit yourself. There are so many parallels to draw. And sometimes some of the history you learned in secondary school kicks in, and it helps you a lot. So just read widely, and nothing is a wasted resource. Number two, distinguish yourself from the rest by just being as brilliant as you can be. And the only way to do that is to adding value to yourself, picking up new skills. I'm particularly interested in data journalism. Data science is really important moving forward. And also digital journalism. How many competencies do you have? How many skills do you have? Where can you operate? Are you versatile? That would be very, very important. And also just familiarize yourself with things that you don't know. It's really important that you get into spaces that you're uncomfortable with. And also identify spaces that not many people are in so that you can stand out. Yeah. That's really my piece of advice. And please allow me at this point, with your permission, Marie, to jump off the call. It's been it's a pretty hectic day, but thank you very much for having me on. Okay. And Solomon, I do appreciate you, brother. I appreciate what you're doing, and best wishes with the projects that you're undertaking. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much for listening. Alan, have a great.
Before you go, drop me a line on WhatsApp. We need to talk.
Oh, will do. Okay, man. Will do.
Awesome. All right, Solomon, your parting shots as well.
So for me, every year, different universities actually, have so many graduates from UCU, Makerere, and Geje, everywhere. The thing that I always tell young people is, how do you stick your neck out from the crowd? I'll give you an example, two classic examples. One of them was this guy at Makerere. What he did is, during the strike, he did a video with his phone. He said, so reporting live from Makerere, the strike is going on and I'm boiling my porridge here and all that, and all this NBS live at night. You remember that video that went viral? That brother was picked up by NBS and is currently reporting for NBS. There's a guy who also, he was part of the Media Challenge initiative. And, he just used his phone, just a phone, and he recorded himself reading news. When he recorded himself news, everyone loved it. And guess what? Boom, boom, boom. What happened next? The guy is reading news on record. So the thing is, how do you take advantage of the social spaces to put your neck out I think that what social media has done, what the internet has done actually, to break the very backbone of traditional media, that you can actually develop your content well researched and put it up on YouTube and put it up on Facebook and put it up on Twitter, and people will visit your page every single day, and you will be a source of information, right? We have so many people they call socialites, people who have so big followings, and yet they do nothing but just be online. And just be online, put on their nice
Smile and
dresses,
wave.
shake their, smile and wave, shake their booties, and everyone will just come and just see their pages on Instagram every single day, and have so many views. You'll find that they have over 1 million views, but all they do is just be online, look good and smell good, and show off their nice clothes and their long nails, and everyone just say rubbish, but people will come and see. Exactly. They'll just go on an Instagram live, and people you just see so and so is joining. Everyone is just looking, even when they're saying rubbish. So why don't you take advantage of social media spaces to actually grow yourself, develop content, and put it out there? And what the social media has done for us is it has made this whole big world into a small global village, where someone in New York can as well see your YouTube channel. Someone in Kuala Lumpur can actually see your YouTube channel. And through that, when you package yourself, imagine doing commentary every morning on big stories around the continent and putting some touch to them and doing it on Facebook, consistency every single day. So I will then come on your page and listen from your commentary and analysis on the things that you're talking about. So the thing is value addition to yourself. How do you add value to yourself to stick and be above others, so that the world can notice you? And I think that really goes into what Alan was saying, investing in yourself, in your head, training your brain and adding value to yourself, that I can say, hey, by the way, did you see that girl? She's actually good. And when you're in places of power, then you're sitting with CEOs and decision makers. You're like, there is this girl, and she just has this, Instagram page, and she's just amazing at what she does. What do you think? Can we just have her on board? And then before you know it, that call comes, and you're able to even grow yourself even much more. So I think that value addition is important. How do you stick your neck out? How do you stand up from the rest? Those are things that you need to start thinking about as a young journalist trying to compete in a world that has citizen journalists, but as well as that has professional journalists. Thank you very much, Mary, for having me.
Wow, thank you so much, Solomon, for that. I think for me, the main things that have really stood out today is add value to yourself, read, and just make sure you stand out, be relevant, to go above and beyond really what you're supposed to do, take advantage of the situations around you. Speaking. But I've learned quite a number of things today. So I'd just like to say thank you so much for the wisdom that you've shared. Yeah, it's on Twitter and on Instagram. That's the same name of the page. You can follow my page. My name is Marley K. Shamaza. I am on Instagram. I am on Twitter, also on Facebook, but not very active, but you can still follow me because it doesn't hurt. Yeah, I think the Bakash Media team is back. Could you please throw up that poll on the screen, and then we can wrap this thing up and get going with the rest of our days. Awesome. There is the poll. Yeah, the questions are very few. This just helps us to serve you better and to know how you found this session, so we know what needs to be improved. If any, are you a student, a business owner, self-employed, other? And then how did you find this session? Was it extremely satisfying? I feel like that's the right answer, extremely satisfied, but also just be very completely honest with us and tell us what your real thoughts were. Yeah, I have submitted. I believe we should be done. Is everyone done, or at least almost done? It's a quick one. I think we should all be done. All right. Okay, so one last thing before we wind up. I am currently running a campaign. I'm trying to feed 260 families in my area. I live in an area in Kansanga called Chiwafu. It was my birthday on Monday, and so this month for my birthday, what I want to do is feed families who have been affected as a result of the lockdown. So we are running a charity. So I'd like you to give if you are able to. There are two numbers on the screen. There's an Airtel number and an MTN number. So to be able to allow for both networks. It costs 30,000 shillings to feed each family. It will be enough to get a family 2 meals for a period of time. And yeah, so that's all you need to do. So you can feed one family, you can feed 2, you can feed 10, whatever you're in position to do. I would be extremely, extremely grateful. The numbers don't have my name, but I have access to them, so don't worry about that. Yeah, so those are the two numbers that you can send your contribution to. I would be extremely grateful. And you don't have to send 30,000 if you don't have it. You can send 10,000, you can send 5,000, you can send over and above that, 50K, 100K, generally whatever you're in position to send. Let's feed some families in this area. These are a few details so you can understand it better, so you know what you are doing. We're feeding 260 households with 30,000 shillings each. Yeah, the total amount needed is 7.8 million. As of this morning, I've raised about 1.5 million so far, and we have until the end of August. I plan to give out in the last week of August. So if you would kindly contribute to this cause, I would be really, really grateful. Yeah, I think the announcements are done for today, so we can just get ourselves ready to wind up. So thank you so much, Bakash Media team. Thank you for putting these sessions together, and thank you for supporting my campaign. Yeah. Okay, so I think we're ready to wind ourselves up, So if you'd like to, I'd like you to just I was going to say unmute your video. What's the word for a video? What do you do with your video? Switch on, turn on your videos. Wow, guys. Yeah, if you could turn on your videos, you could just wave, smile, you know, or just have some attitude. Whatever your pose is really, we're not going to direct that. But yeah, and then the Bakash Media team is going to take a quick screenshot. They will let us know when the screenshot is done, and then we shall be ready. Thank you so much. My name is Mali Keishamaza. I am a public speaker, yeah, and a lover of life, lover of God. Thank you so much for joining us today. All right, let's get ready for the picture. Just smile and wave. Just smile and wave. Do what you have to do. We are going to take a picture. I hope it's been taken. You know, sometimes smiling for a long time can get quite tiring. Are we good to go? I'm going to assume we're good to go. All right, guys. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much, Solomon Serwanjja. I really, really appreciate your time. And I appreciate what you do. I am a fan of your work. I follow your work because I'm a journalist, just not really practicing, but I be peeping things and knowing what's happening. So thank you so much for giving us your time. We take it for granted. I personally don't take it for granted, and I've learned so much from you today. So thank you so much. To all our contestants, English has really departed from me today. To all our participants and the people that have joined us today, thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for engaging. We appreciate it, and we're super, super grateful. Yeah, please follow me, guys, on Instagram and on Twitter. I'm like really cool. All right, awesome. We are done for today. Thank you so much. Have yourselves a very good. Yes, Solomon would like to say something. Go ahead.
Yes, please. All of you to please go to our institute page on Twitter and Instagram, and you follow us. We put there opportunities for funding projects. So our Instagram page and our Twitter page, just put in the African Institute for Investigative Journalism. You will see it on Twitter. I think it's at African IIJ. You can follow us. On Instagram, it's African IIJ2. So you can just see what we're doing, and you'll find a lot of resources there, especially for those who are interested in investigative journalism. Yeah, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Maybe Mali,
all right.
Before you break off,
yes.
This goes to Solomon. Send our shout outs to Rahim, who initiated this, and I mean we have not interacted, you know, physically, but Rahim initiated this and he respected it. We thank him so much, and you can thank him on our behalf.
Yeah, I think I've posted the thing. I don't know if I've posted the right thing, but I've posted something in the chat. I don't know if that's it, Solomon.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Thanks, Mandy.
All right, that's my handle. And then, yeah, thank you guys so much. We are so grateful.
Thank you,
Have
Maddie
yourselves a
and
great
Solomon.
day. You're welcome. Have a good day. Thanks for tuning in. Goodbye. Hey.